Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Jarvis. Today I'm back with another EDH deck tech. This time it is with Zask, Skittering Swarmlord. Before we get into the deck tech, I just wanted to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe on the video. Also, if you please go and follow me on all my other socials, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. They're all in the link tree in the description of the video, as well as a link to my Discord. But getting into this video, we have Zask, Skittering Swarmlord, a 3 green. He's a legendary creature insect from the new Jumpstart 2022, and he's a 5/5. Has the ability that you may play lands and cast insect spells from your graveyard. Whenever another insect you control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library, then mill 2 cards. And then for 1 Hybrid Golgari, target insect gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch until end of turn. With there being that Hybrid Golgari symbol in the text box, this is a Golgari commander. So you play both green and black spells in the deck. So we are going to play this as an insect theme deck for first and foremost. So there's going to be insects everywhere. So in this section, it's going to be not only insects themselves, but creatures that either buff insects or go and create new insects. So we have Blex Vexing Pest, 2 and a green, legendary creature Pest, that gives other pests, bats, insects, snakes, and spiders you control +1/+1. And when it dies, you gain 4 life. Also has the ability to go and have a sorcery on the other side of it called Search for Blex. It's a 2 black. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put any number of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card you put into your hand. Canoptic Scarab Swarm is 4 generic mana, has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you exile target player's graveyard. And for each artifact or land exiled this way, you create a 1/1 colorless insect artifact creature token with flying. Canoptic Tome Sentinel is 4 generic as well. It has vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield from a graveyard, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent. Now it has Unearth of 7, which is how you would get it most often from the graveyard to the battlefield. Caustic Caterpillar is a single green, has an activated ability for 1 and a green to sacrifice it and destroy target artifact or enchantment. Circuit Mender is 3 generic. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life, and when it leaves the battlefield, you draw a card. Important to note that says leaves the battlefield, so it doesn't matter if it's bounced, sacrificed, or exiled. You still get to draw that card. Crash of Rhino Beetles is 4 and a green, trample, and it's +10/+10 as long as you control 10 or more lands. Devouring Swarm is 1 black, has flying, and sacrifice a creature to give it +1/+1 until end of turn. Durable Coilbug is 1 and a black, and for 4 and a black, you return it from your graveyard to your hand. Giant Adipage, 5 green, trample, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you create a token that's a copy of Giant Adipage. Giant Ankheg is 6 green, trample, ward 2, and other creatures you control have trample and ward 2. Glean and Crawler, 3 Hybrid Golgari, trample. At the beat of your end step, return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Grist the Hungertide is 1 black and green. Whatever Grist is anywhere other than the battlefield, he is a 1/1 insect creature in addition to its other types. Has the +1 ability to go and create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token and then mill a card. If you mill an insect card, you put a loyalty counter on Grist, and you get to do it all over again. -2, sacrifice a creature. When you do, destroy target creature or planeswalker, so as removal. And the -5 is each opponent loses life equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Haywire Might is a single generic mana. When it dies, you gain 2 life, and for a green, you can sacrifice Haywire Might and exile target non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. So pretty much any artifact or enchantment that's not a creature you can exile. Heartstabber Mosquito is 3 and a black. Also has Kicker of 2 and a black, flying, and when it enters the battlefield, if you kicked it, you destroy target creature. Hornet Nest is 2 and a green, defender. Whenever it is dealt damage, you create that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch. Izoni Thousand Eyed, 2 black, green. Has Undergrowth, which gives the ability that when it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token for each creature card in your graveyard. And then for a black and a green, you can sacrifice another creature and gain 1 life and draw a card. Kazandu Nectarpot is 1 and a green, landfall, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Crawl Harpooner, 1 and a green, reach, and its undergrowth ability goes and has an ETB that you can choose up to 1 target creature with flying you don't control. Crawl Harpooner gets plus X plus 0 until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Then it may fight that creature. Living Hive is 6 green, trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, put that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens into play. Mazarek Crawl Death Priest, 3 black green, flying, and whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Moldgraph Millipede, 4 and a green. When enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards, then put a +1/+1 counter on Moldgraph Millipede for each creature card in your graveyard. Nantuko Cultivator, 3 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, you may discard any number of land cards. You put that many +1/+1 counters on Nantuko Cultivator and draw that many cards. Nantuko Elder is 2 and a green. Can tap for 1 and a green. So it's a mana dork. Nessian Horn Beetle, 1 and a green. At the beginning of combat in your turn, if you control another creature with power 4 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on Nessian Horn Beetle. Phyrexian Swarmlord, 4 green, has Infect. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 green insect creature token with Infect onto the battlefield for each poison counter your opponents have. Why not add Infect to all these bugs? Plague Stinger, 1 and a black, flying and Infect. Realm Walker, 2 and a green, changeling. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and then you may look at the top card of your library at any time and may cast creature spells of the chosen type from the top of your library. So it gives you more access to more cards. Scoop Mob is a single green, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 5 or more lands, put 4 +1/+1 counters on Scoop Mob. Scoop Swarm, 2 and a green, landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you get to create a 1/1 green insect creature token. However, if you control 6 or more lands, you get to create a token that's a copy of a Scoop Swarm instead. So, it's very possible that you could be creating lots of Scoop Swarms in this deck. Vorapede, 2 green. Vigilance, Trample, and Undying, meaning that when it dies, if it doesn't have a +1/+1 counter, you go and return it to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. And then the next sub-theme of the deck is Lands Matter. So if you noticed on Zask, it cared about both lands and creatures being in the graveyard, lands and insects, I should say, where you play lands out of your graveyard. So I wanted to go and play some cards that cared about lands being in your graveyard, or also being able to play them out of your graveyard, as well as a new card from Brothers War that you might enjoy playing in this deck. But Crop Rotation is a single green. At an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a land. You can search your library for a land card and put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Crucible of Worlds is 3 generic, and you may play land cards from your graveyard. Farseek is 1 and a green. It lets you search for a Plains, Island, Swamp, or Mountain card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Harrow, 2 and a green. You have to sacrifice land with additional cost. But then you can search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Nature's Lure is 1 and a green. You can search your library for a forest card and put it onto the battlefield. Raminap Excavator, 2 and a green. Also lets you play land cards from your graveyard. 3 visits, 1 and a green. Same thing as Nature's Lure. Then, Titania Voice of Gaia. 1 green, elemental with reach. Whenever 1 or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more land cards in your graveyard, you both own and control Titania Voice of Gaia and a land named Arga, Sanctum of Nature. Exile them, then meld them into Titania Gaia Incarnate. And then Arga, Sanctum of Nature enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a legendary green creature, and you can tap it to make a green mana, or for 2 and 2 green, you could tap it, create a 2/2 green bear creature token, then mill 3 cards, but you can only activate that as a sorcery. And if you're able to meld these meld into this Titania Gaia Incarnate, which is a Vigilance, Reach, Trample, Haste, XX, where its power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control. And when it enters the battlefield, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, And for 3 and a green, you put 4+1/+1 counters on target land you control, and it's a 0/0 elemental creature with haste that's still a land. Now, how do we close the game out? There's a few ways. First is Bastion of Remembrance. It's 2 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token, and whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. With all your creatures being very small, your creature's going to be dying a lot, and as you notice, a lot of our creatures also had sack outlets on them. Coat of Arms, 5 generic. Each creature gets a +1/+1 for each other creature in play that shares a creature type with it. We're playing a lot of insects, so we're going to literally become an insect swarm and swarm the battlefield. Overwhelming Stampede, 3 and 2 green. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Sir Conrad the Grim, 3 and 2 black. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And then for 1 and a black, each player mills a card. This synergizes really nicely with Zask, because when your insect dies and goes to the graveyard, that deals 1 point of damage with Sir Conrad. Then, when Zask goes and returns it from the graveyard to the bottom of your library, it deals another point of damage. Then you have to mill cards. If any of those cards you mill are creatures, then Sir Conrad deals more damage. So it just keeps getting that damage in there and helps you close the game. Then we have to talk about removal. We need to interact with our opponents, and there's a few ways that we're going to do that. We have Beast Within for 2 and a green. To destroy a target permanent, its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. Casualties of War is a 2 black, green, green. Destroy 1 or more, an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, and planeswalker. Coin Ritual, 2 black and a green. This is probably one of my favorite board wipes. That you destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add a black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. This allows us to ramp into a big spell, keep all of our stuff that's 3 mana or more, as well as punish your opponents that are relying on things like clues, other tokens that don't have a mana value, treasures, anything like that. Crossing Grip, 2 and a green. Split Second, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Nature's Claim, a single green, destroy target artifact or enchantment, its controller gains 4 life. Putrefy, 1 black green, destroy target artifact or creature, it can't be regenerated. Tear Asunder, 1 and a green with kicker of 1 and a black. Exile target artifact or enchantment. If you kick the spell, you'd exile target non-land permanent instead. Meathook Massacre, X black. This also can help end the game. When it enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X/-X until end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life, and whenever a creature an opponent control dies, you gain 1 life. Toxic Deluge, 2 and a black. As an additional cost to cast it, pay X life, and all creatures get -X/-X, where X is the amount of life you paid until end of turn. And finally, the other good stuff, the mana rocks, card draw, or anything else that doesn't really fit the other categories. Agadeem's Awakening is X black. Return from your graveyard to the battlefield any number of target creature cards that each have a different converted mana cost, X or less. So if you pay 3 into X, you can return a 3 cost, a 2 cost, a 1 cost, and if you have it, a 0 cost. Agadeem the Undercrypt is the other side. It acts as a land, and you may pay 3 life to bring it in untapped, and it generates a black mana. Arcane Signet. Balged Recovery is 2 and a green. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. And the flip side is it enters the battlefield tapped, and you can tap it for a green mana for another land. Deadly Dispute, 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature. Draw 2 cards and create a treasure. Noxious Revival is green Phyrexian mana, so either green mana or 2 life. Put target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library. Out of the Tombs, 2 and a black. At the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 Eon counters on Out of the Tombs. Then mill cards equal to the number of Eon counters on it. If you draw a card while your library has no cards in it, instead return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If you can't, you lose the game. So, this prevents you from losing the game by decking out as long as you still have creature cards in your graveyard, as well as milling you to go and fill your graveyard with both creatures and lands. Skull Clamp is a single generic mana. Equipped creature gets +1/-1, and whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards, equip 1. We're making lots of 1/1 insects, plus insects in general don't have tons of toughness. Talisman of Resilience is 2 generic. Tap and create a colorless. Tap and add black or green. Vanquisher's Banner is 5 generic mana. The reason why I didn't put this in as a finisher is because it only gives the creatures you control +1/+1. But whenever you cast a creature spell of the chosen type, which would always be insects, you get to draw a card. And Village Rites is a single black as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, and draw 2 cards. Now, tell me what you think about this deck. What changes would you make? Any other cards that you would take out? What ones would you put in? Yet again, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out any of my other videos that you might like. Until next time.